Okay, so as promised, I'm making a real program using what we have now with our command line handling stuff. Now, I've actually made the program. Let's get rid of it. And I've done the intermediate step, which I'd like to go through. Maybe I can just go through that by sort of doing it again. What we want to do is make a program that extracts these strings from a version resource says in a file, if it has a resource, a version resource, that is. This again is one of those problems that you should only solve once and then be done with it, and that's the end of the story for that. And so I did do that. I ended that story in common, and it's really quite simple. The help file, the hint file rather, does provide an example and everything. So maybe I'll just show you. I made a class. I figured a class is required, and I started out. This is what I started out with. It's going to be something called version info, from which one can extract the strings. Now I know that version info files can have multiple languages, and so I thought it might be a good idea to have that as a member, the language identifier. And it turns out the way that the versioning system works is that you acquire in one go the entire resource in that binary format, and then from that data that you've allocated, see I'm bringing it here, then you can extract those strings, and you can extract them by language and identifier. So then I just wrote down with the obvious function. If there's no version info, I call that empty. Is empty, or is valid, could be another way to write this. I thought it might be of use to be able to extract from the struct an array of language identifiers. Well, it turns out that it's not useful, because I decided in the end to only extract well, no, I didn't really. I use this thing. You can set the language and then extract strings for the current language, but I don't use that feature. Now, originally I was going to write down as many functions as there are strings in this thing here, and the number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 12. There are 12 possible strings, and so I started making one function after another, and then I realized, well, all those functions are doing the same thing. So instead I just called this value, which takes a identifier string, and the identifiers are the ones on the left here. So if you pass in comments, if I say I want the value of comments, it will return whatever's in here, if there is anything. The language identifier happens to be this number here. And we did a conversion before to decimal. Now 409 is 1033, and that stands for English. Now, the reason I know that for a fact, well, okay, not a total fact, but the reason I'm pretty darn sure that means English is because wherever you go, almost any program, at some point you're going to see something that says 1033. See? Here's another 1033. How about here? Nothing there. I don't know what that is. 1033. You see all these 1033s showing up? Well, again, I don't know what that is. The reason there are all these 1033s around, I believe, is because my language I've set, my default language that I've set on my system is English. Originally it was English International, and I changed it to English US because the keyboard doesn't work properly with international English, whatever that means. That is, if you press the quotation key, you don't get a quote. You get nothing until you press another key, and nobody would want that. Unless you lived in Holland or something. So that I suspect is the meaning of 1033 is English. Now, is there any other way? Sometimes there are things that have multiple languages. What has multiple languages? Okay, now here's something. I wonder what's in these files. Small file. Okay. Code page 1252. Language 483 text. That's 1155. So, okay, this is great. This will tell us what some language IDs are. Unfortunately, it won't give us English. A, B, C, D. No English. Maybe there's a language ID. Lang options. I want to find a 1033. 409. See? Okay, now I know that when I installed this, the installer asked me what language I wanted, and I said English. And as you can see, the language identifier came back as 409, so 409 means English. Now, turns out the code page part, which is the bottom for nibbles, can be 0. 0 is valid. And I don't know what it means. It means that you don't know what code, it doesn't know what code page to use. But this one this has a code page 4B0, which is 1200, and I wonder what that is. It's probably English US rather than or ANSI or something. UTF-16 little endian. That's weird. Let's see what this says. That doesn't. I don't understand this UTF-16. Oh, there's no 1200 in the list here. Oh, wait a minute. UTF-16. Okay. Okay, little endian byte order, so that's some of my system. That's just Unicode, I guess. ISO 10.0646. Only managed application. Why would they call something universal if it's got 16 bits? It's not universal. If it's in word values, it's not universal. I wonder what this is. Okay, 1252. That's supposed to be Western European. 1250 Central, and a bunch of others. So for ANSI code pages, there's a list here for those. OEM stands for something Object Equipment Manufacturer or something like that. And I don't know what these are for, but I know this one, 437, that's the one that's used in these boxes. Okay. So really that 1200 it's kind of useless anyway. Who knows what UTF-16 stands for? It's got to be Unicode, some sort. I wonder if I could look this up. Oh wait, BMP, I wonder what that stands for. Hang on a sec. Okay, I'm not going to dwell on this. BMP stands for Basic Multilingual Plane, which is a type of Unicode, I assume. The one referred to is called the Universal Character Set. So that's Unicode, I would assume. Now, it just started raining, so I don't know if you can hear me. But I suppose that there are possibly more than 65,000 characters in the world, so you can't fit everything into Unicode even. That is, you would need even more than wide characters to cover every language. But the one that is used. In fact, I know that from another thing. See, I use this table to look up Unicode characters, and U+ stands for Unicode. If you keep going down here, you'll notice eventually it starts going beyond four digits and onto more digits. So there aren't enough Unicode characters to cover all the languages in the world. Not only languages, but also like emoticons and little pictures and plants, that people want to make. Now, most fonts are not going to have anything associated with those values. If you want to print out a character and you know the code, let's say I want to, in Notepad, I want to make this little cloud. And I only know the code. It's 2601. The way you do it is, I remember, you hold the Alt key down, then you press the plus sign, I think. Then you type in the number 2601 on the numeric keypad and release the Alt key. And there it is. So it's hold Alt and always on the numeric keypad. For any keys where you want to generate these character codes that you have to use the numeric keypad. So you hold down the Alt key and then press plus on the numeric keypad, press for numbers or letters. Now the letters can't come from the numeric keypad, so there's one exception. So let's try one that has a letter in it, see if it works. It's a funny symbol. 260D. Alt plus 260 and then D release. It worked. Okay? That's for Unicode. You can't use decimal digits. For code page 437, OEM, the OEM code page, that's the old DOS code page that is installed with most systems. It's Alt and then type the number so that'd be from 0 to 255 and release. Oh, that'll give you a 437 character code. Sorry. If I do Alt, this is a diversion, isn't it? Now here's code page 437. So you can't use the hex. You could if you used the Alt plus, but we're not. If I wanted this character, in code page 437, I can hold Alt down, type 144 on the keypad, and then release the Alt. This is using code page 437, so Alt 144, enter, release, gives me that character. Similarly, 210 would give me this big thing that looks like a pie. Whoops. Okay. Now that's code page 437. There's one last one that you can use the alt sequences for. That's ANSI code page 1252. Western European WU, Western European Windows. And that's Alt, and then 0, followed by the character, the 3-digit character code. Release. Okay. Now this is using code page 1252. So if I go and look at that code page, and I want to extract, if I want to extract, let's say use one of the numbers I already used, 144. Oh, it doesn't have any. 146. Let's say. Yeah, so 162. So I would have to do Alt. So for 162, you wanted to write it down in some kind of way, understandable way. Slash means the release, let's say. So I go Alt 0162 release. And then I got a little cent sign, which is that. Now if I just did Alt 162, where did 437 go? I'm going to get, I should get, for 162, this character. So if I just did Alt 162, see, I got the code page 437 character corresponding to code 162. Right, where it went. This one, as opposed to this one. Okay, those are the 3 ways. So that's why the code page can matter. And but this doesn't define any code page. This is some other thing. They call it a code page, but it's not really a code page, it's a UNICODE page. And I don't know exactly what it means, and 0 works. So we don't have to worry too much about that. Okay, now what about this class? So what I want to do is find the code for it. Now this thing takes in its constructor either an H instance, like a handle, module handle, you know, the H instance for your program, for instance, for instance, or a file name. Now, really, all it really takes is a file name, because I'm immediately converting this H instance into a file name and then calling this construct function, which takes a file name. Now, to extract the entire version resource, call this function first. Tells you how big it is. If it's 0, there's no version resource. Otherwise, you malloc that amount of data, and then call the get function with the file name that you already used up here. This always has to be null. This has to be the size of the amount of data you want to retrieve, which we already got from this function. And this is the destination buffer that we just malloced. And that should all succeed. And then I have a thing called get languages. Now this code comes out of the help file directly, so I'm just going to trust it. The help file is a bit complicated to read. And I tried doing it one way, and I thought I was going to get some kind of structure back when I tried this. But instead it just gave me a single D-word value. And that D-word is the same D-word that shows up in the version resource. Okay, it's busy. It's busy waiting for the help file to load up. I'll pause this. Okay, help file eventually arrived. Ver query value. Now there are various ways to call this. You can pass in block pointer to buffer containing version, so that we already retrieved that. So that's the buffer containing the version information. Pointer to a null terminating string specifying which information value to retrieve. String must consist of names separated by backslashes. So it's like a little directory. So this would give us the root, and that would be a pointer to a type of structure. And this might really be the best way to handle it, but anyway. So there are a bunch of flags and things, but I don't use that. Then file info, which is what we're interested in. What we want is file info, then the language / code page, and then the name of the variable. Okay. So that's a language specific request. You can also find out what the language is. So if you just say file info /translation, returns the translation array in a var variable information structure. When I click on this, I get that. Okay. Now I thought that this was where the values would be, but according to the help here, it's just the first two. The first two members of this pseudo struct, so real struct, so outline. So we use an array of language and code page identifiers, and then we can use the identifiers to access a specific string table in the resource. And then an output buffer. right? You don't have to free it. Okay, I'm just telling you that. Now this is something that this is something that is a thing that would always that would get me. Would be something that would throw me because I tend to speed read through these help file things, and I see the word free, and then I think, oh, I gotta free this thing. But if you read it carefully, it's saying that this thing would be freed when T block is freed, so you don't have to free it. So this should not be freed. It's freed. Don't free it. And then a pointer to that tells you the length of data that was retrieved. So that's a very simple thing. Nothing to it. Now, but I still did add this getLanguages function, which is supposed to return an array of languages. Now, this leads to a slight problem because I'm accessing the 0th element of the array always here, right? And maybe I shouldn't be doing that. So in the case where I don't have anything, I'm just making up a fake one. This here is English, whatever that thing was called, the UTF-16, English UTF-16. This could be 0, in fact. I should probably use 0 instead. 1033. No, actually, I need to do that. Let's change that to 1033. Famous magic number. Okay, so then we call this thing, and then I just copy the code out of the help file. We now have an array of language identifiers, and the length of that array is this divided by the size of the struct, which is so we do the 2 words, which is a D word. So length divided by size of D word, and I'm always getting 4 here, so I always get 1 language identifier. I'd like to see a case where I don't. Now, to extract, we use this. So we take that D word value that we found in the translation, and I'm always using the 0th one. Well, no, I'm using I should be using the member. Yeah, but I've set that member value up here. It's revert everything backwards again. So the low word of the language identifier goes on the top. So therefore 1033, right? Which is what we have here. 409 is 1033. Now you know 409 is 1033. Or you should know. You'll get used to it. This may or may not be 0, the high word. So the subblock is string file info code page. They call this code page. Really, it's lang code page. So this should be stir lang code page. Slash, and then the identifier string, which is one of these things. Okay. Now, to extract the value, it's block this string here. You'll notice that there's no C, there's no const here. So what I did was I just made a copy of my TS string so that I can pass something non-constant here. I don't want to ever pass one of my structures into something that explicitly says that it's going to modify this data. If there's no constant, that means it's going to make some modifications here. However it does that, it's none of my business. But I don't want my string to change. Whether it does modify the data is of no relevance. The statement says that it's going to be modified. This here. Okay. Maybe not grown or shrunk, but you would definitely would not pass a string literal in here, right? Or else you're asking for a crash. Okay, then the return value is a pointer to void, and here's the length. So then I return a string. I cast this to a type of character value, pointer to car, of length. Now this works in Unicode. I haven't tried it in non-Unicode, so it might not work. This might have to be non-Unicode. It might have to be Unicode. Let's see. Does it say anything about that? No, this says Unicode strings. Let's see, actual example. No, are they definitely using Unicode? LP buffer. What's LP buffer defined? No, translate. Am I blind or where is it? Maybe this has to be Unicode. I'll check that later. Definitely works. Unicode works. I know that. So let me just add a little note to myself. And that'll bother me for a while. Okay, and then I return the string. Now do a test if that's working. You can use this unit test. We can even use our command line without any switches. I just spent like 4 hours trying to get rid of those extra environment variables in here. What a disaster. Using a batch file. Okay. so now I need to declare one of these things. And it takes in its constructor either an H instance or a file name. So I could use the H, I could use argv as 0, or I could use yeah, let's do that. That'll be my own version resource. Okay. And I don't think I have to do anything else except include the file. Version info. Make sure it's UNICODE, debug. Now I do have a version resource, so let's try and print out legal copyright. First we check if it's valid. Now it's going to return an empty string if it's not there. Using a semicolon. Okay, there it is. That's just the code page 437 version of the copyright symbol, which I've used. How about file version? Seems to work. Yeah, we can add some comments. Oops. This is my famous unit test program. There you go. See? So now we have a structure. We've completely solved up to this question that needs to be answered. The version info, the interface to finding the version information, printing it out. It just comes back as strings, and there are only 12 possibilities, so that part is done. Next, I want to make a function that actually does that, and I want to be able to pass in, like star.dll, and I want to add switches. I want to say which ones I want to extract, and so on. So we're halfway there, and I'll continue on with the next video.